Hello and welcome to the fifth episode of the Less Stress Cast, your number one cast where we talk with experts about helpful and practical tips so you can learn how to handle your stress better and to maximize your health, in consequence, gain more time for yourself and for your business and for your family, for your loved ones, and just balance your body out in the best possible way. Today, I'm very excited to have, again, a very special guest on the podcast today. I call him personally a movement and survival expert, and we're going to get deeper about that in this topic during the interview. And he's a life learner when it comes down to Asian philosophy and how to implement those wisdoms into your daily routines these days to be in control about and of your emotions, having a balanced and healthy lifestyle and creating the absolute best version of yourself. Also, he's like a brother to me. Welcome to the show, Daniel Martinez. Hi, Daniel.
Hey,
How you doing?
doing good, doing
Yeah,
pretty good. Trying to have a peaceful Sunday.
that's great. That's
I think
awesome.
this moment right now, this is the most peaceful and calmer that I've
Yeah.
had all week.
You're actually right now in San Francisco, right? It's pretty crazy over
Hmm.
there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel you. So I gave you this introduction right now. I wanted to ask you first, did I forget anything? Do you want to share something right now? I mean, I just said you are in San Francisco right now. Maybe can you tell us a little bit more? Who is Daniel Martinez? What are you doing right now? Where do you live? And where do you come from? Just a little bit background information of you.
Hmm. Okay. Um, so I'm gonna try not to go the route of the David Copperfield, kind of like starting from when I was born, but just sort of like just
No,
sort of
just what you
a
do
short
right now.
version of that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, there you go.
So yeah, I'm based in San Francisco. I'm a, personal trainer. That's just the simplest way of saying that's my business. Of course, it extends to other facets of life, and it has a tendency of being a little bit more complex. You kind of like tend to become more of a relationship expert in a way, because that's what you're forging, right? You're forging relationships with your clients. You are becoming a part of their journey, right? And doing what I do right now is it's definitely not what I want it to be. Like you always have this idea what you want to be when you grow up. And I think for many people in this industry, it's kind of like for many of us is that way. Just sort of like it just happened, and that was like the one thing that I worked hard enough for, and eventually that's the one thing that started to become a career. Um, and a fairly successful career in terms of me being able to say that I'm making a living out of this without working an exorbitant amount of hours. But yeah, I was born in Puerto Rico, La Isla de Puerto Rico, and I came to New York when I was 15 years old, and I lived there for like 16 years. I wanted to be a rock star or an actor. I was always in performance and all that, and I did work in that field throughout my late 20s and 30s, and that was pretty cool. Living that lifestyle, the theater and the rock, you know, lifestyle in New York. That was great, but and as you very well know, things happen in life, and I think part of our the things that we need to do in order to survive is to adapt, right? To adapt to changes rather than force things. It just rather understanding how to go with things, right? As opposed to like forcing, right? And allow for change, right? To be a part of who we are, to allow for that to happen and to guide us, right? To just try to look at not all the doors that are closing, but all the doors that are opening with all these challenges that we face, and also try to like switch our perspective from like obstacle into challenges, right?
Mhm.
So a lot of things happened. I was involved in an accident, and that pretty much, I think that was like the first that was like the second major point in my life when I realized, well, things are not turning out the way I wanted to. What do I do now? And
Okay.
by a series of events, coincidences, that's how I ended up in San Francisco, try to start a new career.
Okay, that's it's amazing that you basically already almost give the answer for my first question I wanted to prepare for you, because I actually wanted to just ask you about kind of like the stepping stones
Oh,
to
okay.
become the way, but it's completely fine because you gave yourself a great introduction into the topic, so that was amazing
Okay.
actually. And I wanted to actually ask you
Yeah.
mm, to actually take us a little bit on this journey of you as a human being, because I know from, I mean, you guys, you have to understand, we guys work together in San Francisco, and that's how we get to know each other, and we had a lot of talkings, and I know this person in front of me here very well. But and that's why I wanted to have him on the show, because I know he can create a lot of value for people out there listening to this right now, especially to the topics we're going to talk about later. But to start here with, actually, I was interested in your stepping stones, and you already mentioned like two. You had this accident, and then there was another one probably. And I wanted to ask you, these two major events, can you describe that a little bit better? Because I feel like that has created a change in your life and in your personality you become right now. And how was that important for the person you became today?
Sure. Well, the first one came when I was 15, when I was 15 years old. When I was 13, so my family life as a young kid was, I have a wonderful mother, and God bless her, she's fantastic. And, but on my father's side, things were a little bit more complicated. Um, and there were some events when I was a kid, violent events actually that occurred when I was a kid that I still remember to this day. And it's funny because I never thought about that. You sort of like you just keep going on about your life, you keep moving forward. But yeah, I've had many of these events. So there were like some violent events that happened that had nothing to do within the microcosmos of our family, but it was just like completely outside. It involved my father, but it was things that were happening to us, things that people were doing to us. There was an actual shootout.
Oh wow.
Uh, yeah, this is actually funny because I don't think I ever told you this, but yeah, when I was like about 11, um, somebody started shooting at our house.
Wow.
Um,
No, I
the
didn't know
meaning
that.
I, yeah, there was a bullet hole on on my door, on the part of the door. It went right into my room, and yeah, it's crazy. But I think that was one of the earlier events that kind of obviously has to do with my father. And later on, years later, a couple of years later, my parents divorced. And when I was 15, my mother made the choice to go to New York and for us to start a new life there. And then, so she went there when I was like, yeah, like at 14 or 15. She was there for many months. So when I was in my mid-teens, I was living by myself in the house. I was still going to school. I was still doing everything, that normal teenagers do, except that I didn't have parental supervision,
Do
during
you
that time.
remember, can I just quickly interrupt and ask, do you remember how was the feeling when you realized, okay, I'm moving to New York right now? Probably, did you feel like, oh my God, everything is gonna be better, worse? Did you have any feelings about it at all, or did you just go with the flow?
To be honest with you, I think I think I was a natural stoic back then. And now that I think about it, to be honest with you, I was looking forward to it. I was just excited by change. That great unknown was a very exciting thing, even at that age, because I knew I was gonna deal with a whole new set of challenges, but I didn't know what that was. So I
True.
just figured out when I get there, I was just getting away from one dangerous situation into something new, right? And that always carries the promise of something new, potentially exciting, potentially great. Of course, that I didn't know what was in store for me, and I think it was a lot of wonderful things, but there were also a lot of challenges. I dealt a lot with violence, street violence. When I lived in New York, language. I basically had to. I mean, you kind of like you went in Puerto Rico. You when you go to school, you already start learning English. But when you're 15, your conversational English is completely. It's not up on that level.
So that was in the, that was in the early 90s then, right? Like 92,
No,
93,
that was late 80s,
late 80s. Okay.
late 1988 exactly.
Okay. Awesome. Well, before I was born, so
Mm.
good times. Okay. Crazy. Okay. And then you've been to New York. You try to make it into, I'm not call it show business, but I know you had a couple of different jobs. You got a lot of connection with a lot of musician, wanted to become a rock star, had this dream at some point, I guess. Can you take us a little bit more on
Yeah.
the road?
Well, first I needed to get through high school, man.
Sure, sure.
That was a whole other thing of
Okay.
itself. It was South Bronx High School, infamous at least around that time throughout the 80s, and I made it. I survived, and around that time I was just kind of like I turned into like the rebellious, motorcycle jacket wearing, long hair kid. I found other kids like me, and we kind of like stuck out like sore thumb. It was crazy. You can imagine. And a lot of us, and it's funny because even though we look technically like a bunch of like a standard Caucasian type of rebellious, like the motorcycle jacket, the long hair, but we were actually all like minorities, Puerto Rican, Hispanic, Black. It was interesting. It was an interesting bunch of misfits there. But yeah, so that kind of continues. So when I graduated high school, I just got a lot of different jobs, and slowly just get gravitating towards doing music. Then I went into theater, acting, performance, stage, things like that, independent films, and then I went back to music. And when I was like about 30 years old, I went back to music, and that started to pay off. That started to work really well. And we were performing all over New York, and that was great, man. That was a great time. But then there was another event, violent event, where I was involved in a street fight with like seven dudes, and I was the singer of the band, and it left me with broken ribs.
I
And so
remember
that
that
was like
story.
the second or the third stone.
That was
And
actually seven against you, right? Basically, kind of.
mhm,
Yeah, that's crazy. I
yeah,
always remember this story. Like, how the hell did this guy survive that? Like, yeah.
you know,
Can you
I
take
had
us
had a
to
little
this
bit of
moment?
training.
Can you? Yeah, I know you had a lot of training,
Yeah.
but can you take us to the emotions and do you remember anything? Like what did you actually feel and what did go through your head when these guys attacked you?
Well, I kind of like felt it. I kind of like saw it coming in a way, just the way they were moving, and I was just trying to like make space and put myself in a space where I had a very good view of them. But it's funny because we understand the physiological reaction in the body you know of fear, right? All the hormones that are being shot through your body and all that. But the one thing that because I was being in because of all those situations, all those violent scenarios that I've lived through, I've always been sort of fascinated by that. And the one thing that I've noticed is that when you don't have time to get in your head, I mean, you're just in that survival mode. There's not enough time for fear to enter. There's not enough time for fear to be processed in the body. You're just there at the moment. I mean, I think that's we always talk about being present. At least there's no time being present, like when you're engaged with one person or with several people. And I was just quick. I just moved around a lot. I paid attention to my environment. Um, there were a lot of things involved that I probably skipped,
Yeah.
weapons and things like that. But But yeah, the first blow was like a cylinder, like a little cylinder thing that they just like threw at me, and that's what broke my ribs. And I've had this discussion with people where like this is what's gonna sound a little woo, but like I always, so when my life is in danger, I hear a voice that tells me what to do. It could be just a psychological effect of just like, like some sort of separation. But and when I went down on the floor, like I heard the voice telling me get up, and I got up, and I was just like, all right, I guess it's on. Stop turning back. But after that happened, honestly, I was really calm. It was really, really fascinating because there's been a few times in my life where I felt like if I'm gonna go, if I'm gonna die, I'm okay with this. That was one of the few times where I was just like, okay, it's fine. I had made my peace.
Hmm.
But then after that, yeah, I survived it. So everything was like the next day, we obviously I was in a lot of pain, but I was just like, whew, I'm here. This is great, like another day. But of course, that's a whole domino effect of other things happening, my family finding out, and they were like, well, we've had enough of this. You're at the same time I was dating this girl from San Francisco, and that was the next. That's when I how I ended up in San Francisco. She was like, "What are you gonna do? Are you gonna go back to New York? You're gonna have to live with your mom. The band, what's happening?" So I was just like, just I'm just gonna start a new life. It's time.
Okay.
It's time.
Okay. I actually specifically asked you because I remember so many stories you told me when we got to know each other, but this specific one I remember because not just because of the fact that you were able. I'm fascinated by the fact that somebody is able to survive an attack of seven people at the same time, but also when that is where I think it's actually important to understand the change you've been through in your life. That was I'm not saying that violence isn't part of your life anymore. It lives in all of us. But I think what you learned over the years was that was kind of like it feels to me. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels to me that was kind of like a skipping point in your life where you said a little. I'm not saying like goodbye to the violence, but you realized okay, something needs to change here right now, and it all starts with me. And then you get to a next point, and you started to really working on yourself and on controlling probably also this violence, right?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I feel like I was being banged around by the universe a little bit
Hmm.
in its subtle and sometimes not so subtle ways. That it was time for me to move. And like you said, it's always. I mean, once it's a part of you, it's sort of like it kind of like it stays with you, right? Something that you just can't separate from it. And it's but deep at your core is something that you've experienced that stays with you. And certainly it unfortunately didn't stop there. There were other events. But the interesting things is like the other events didn't happen to me. I chose
Okay.
to be involved because they were usually just like things that were happening in the streets, and you just like you get involved. And I felt that I was more in control by the mere fact that I had made that choice. Even if it was just a matter of seconds, you're just reacting to it, but it was just a choice that I made. So I always felt in control. And yes, there were times when I would look back like, what am I doing? And people, friends around the time would tell me like, what's happening to you? Like do you attract these things somehow? And I would tell them, no, I don't think I attract them. I just think that I'm paying attention. I'm paying attention to what's happening out there. And but it made me think. It made me think like, well, what if there is some truth to this? What if we do the things that stay with you and to our overall, to our current or our the emotional. I don't know how to describe it. Just sort of to like this, just the quality of our emotions, right?
Hmm.
And if we become a magnet to that, like whatever's the most amplified, whatever emotional core is amplified constantly, we become magnets to that. So I just sort of like took a little bit of a retreat. There was another point, and I found myself in a really bad spot, and I think it was at that point. all of a sudden, more like I started feeling anxiety. I started suffering from anxiety. Um, and it's funny because for the first time in my life, there was an enemy that I couldn't see. You know, uh, what is this thing? Where is it coming from? I did not know what the triggers were. It was a new feeling. And for me, having been through what I've been through, and all of a sudden feel this immense fear that I've never experienced before was mind blowing to me. And that's, I think, was another pivotal moment when I was like, something's got to change. And then instead of I looked inward a little bit more. I studied a lot. I researched a lot. I seeked therapy, and I began to reshape not just my internal life but my external life.
Hmm.
I think I began to develop a greater appreciation for being alive, even more so than when I had gone through all those things. And I began to look into supplementation. I began to look into ways to calm, my mind, to calm my body, right? And I complemented that with physical training. So I think I subconsciously searched for a holistic approach to better myself, and it was years of just like deep internal, seeking, just trying to understand what makes me who I am. And yeah, and I realized that a lot of things that I studied when I was younger all of a sudden began to make sense. And you always read these things about like mind, body, spirit. And, I read a lot of like, you know, Eastern and Western philosophy texts. And sometimes some of them just sound a little obscure to me, abstract, but all of a sudden these texts began to make sense to me.
Was that
Um,
back then already? Because I felt like it's been just recently that you, like recently, meaning like the last 2, 3 years where you really get into reading those texts.
I got more into it,
Okay.
but like I've always had a fascination in Eastern philosophy when I was a kid. So and yeah, but it was like during this period where I began to search for a little bit something a little bit deeper, because
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there that you can like, latch, a lot of self-help stuff. I mean, that's ingrained in our culture, sort of like
Hmm.
quick fixes self-help. But I knew that's not what I was looking for, right? I needed something that would make me feel grounded, that would make me feel like I was doing the work, that I wasn't just trying to like will reality into existence, but that I was also actually a part of the process. And that's when I realized a lot of the stuff that I was reading earlier when I was younger began to make sense with me. I began to understand concepts of Taoism, Buddhism,
Hmm.
Hellenistic philosophy like Epicureanism, Stoicism, and instead of like calling it something specific, attaching a name to them, I just began to just sort of like using that knowledge along with a healthier lifestyle, um, to be where I am right now. Hope that
Okay.
makes sense. Sometimes I feel like I sound abstract myself,
No, no, no.
so I
That
hope that makes
that makes
sense.
complete sense. I actually, we with my next question, I wanted to get a little bit deeper into that because I think I wanted to create this frame about your life that first people get to know you a little bit better, and that people understand a little bit more the journey and the change you have been through. Because I think that is important that people can see that a lot of times I think that people just think like, oh, it's too late. I cannot change anymore. Or it's I cannot do anything. I cannot be the person. I feel I'm trapped in this in this in this mind prison basically, right? And I think you are always in charge. You're always in power. You just have to make the decision, obviously get the right information, get in contact with the right people, and it's a process. And I think you've been exactly through this process, and until this day, you are going with me and with all the people we are connected with. We're going together through this process, and I think
Absolutely.
that is very important to realize and to understand that it is not like This is not a road you chose to the end of the day. You can always make the decision to get into another road. And I think that is beautiful that you describe that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I am, people really truly believe in the, I'm sure you've heard the saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Yeah, yeah, I heard that.
I think it's baloney. I think it's absolute baloney.
Yeah,
Well, it can be true. You may not be able to teach an old dog new tricks unless that old dog
depends.
is willing to learn,
Hmm.
right? And I think that's what it is. I think that as we get older, we have a tendency of just sort of getting really stuck in certain ways, in certain patterns of believing, certain patterns of behavior, the things that we believe in, and whether that is a natural process or not, I don't think that it needs to be. I think there's always room for change. I just think, remember when I was telling you, like when I left Puerto Rico to go to New York and I was 15 years old and I was just sort of like, there wasn't much going on. I was just sort of like, all right, let's do it. I think if we as adults were able to just kind of look at things from the perspective of of a child's eyes, and if that makes sense, just sort of like just have like that perspective of children, just like
Hmm.
everything is wonderful and exciting, and or at least with a sense of curiosity, right? I think we would be able to allow for more change into our lives, you know. uh, and again, it all comes down to our perception, right? If you keep, we get stuck trying to control so many things that we cannot control, right? But you can start by controlling where you are, how you behave, how you react to the things you cannot control, and I think you can ultimately create so much change, not just in your inner life, but also in your outer life, right? Because all of that is going to manifest outwardly. All it takes is just like one moment for you to view things in a very specific way and to then adjust your thinking or how you will react to a situation and react again in a very proactive, perhaps more positive way. And one of the things that I learned from the Book of Five Rings by Miyamoto Musashi, it's a samurai, a ronin.
Okay.
People say he was a samurai. He really was not a samurai. He came from a samurai family, but he wasn't. Anyway, but I've learned to think strategically also,
Hmm.
right? It doesn't apply just for combat. It also applies to, like, how you deal with your day-to-day existence, how you navigate, your life from day to day. And and I hope this is kind of answering your question. I think that,
Yeah,
you know,
it does.
repatterning my own behavior, my own the way that I see things had a huge influence. Because sure, I can put myself in a situation when I'm stressed out, and it happens. I mean, I'm just a regular guy, right? We're all human, and we are still emotional creatures. But um, whenever you have that stimuli that creates like an emotion, that creates like that little something in you that wants you to react, if you just take that one moment, people say, oh, just take a deep breath. Well, that helps. I believe in the power of the breath, but there has to be an intention. There has to be an understanding of what's happening in your body for you to
Hmm.
feel the way you feel, and what is it that you were accomplishing by taking that one pause, right? Inhaling and exhaling. What is happening, not just physiologically, but also mentally? What are you doing, right? And I think from an emotional perspective, it is the act of letting go, right? That's what you're doing when you're exhaling. You're just letting go. If you allow yourself for that change, for that switch to just happen, you can see things with a lot more clarity, And and it's funny because I've talked about this and I've tried to help people from all ages, from like 40s and also like in the 20s. And it's amazing because I've had clients that are on the younger side. It is this oversaturation of data, you know, of information, right? They can just read the data, the scientific research on the effects of, for example, of meditation, of breathing, and things like that. But because they have not been taught to like really live their emotions fully. It's just this society of just producing, of being, into your work, into your computer, and producing, developing greater and greater levels of anxiety. They believe in the research, they believe in that, but they just don't believe that it can work for them.
Mm-hmm.
So you immediately see that it's more of an emotional factor, right? They're setting themselves up for failure. It's like, oh yeah, no, I believe in all that, but I just don't think it's gonna work for me. I just don't think it's gonna solve the problem at hand, right? And I try to explain to them, well, no, it's not. It's not gonna solve the immediate problem. It's a long term. It's a short-term solution for a long-term solution. It's gonna take you away from that moment so that you can let go, release, and have greater clarity, and not be emotionally attached to all the negative effects of what you're doing right now. Just letting go, stepping away.
I think that is beautiful what you just said. I think that has to do with two things. First, I think that our generation, and I say our generation, my generation, and even younger, I would say, um, that we are impatient. We are not patient.
Yeah,
We want the quick fixes all the time. We are used to that. There's a notification. Ping. There's a notification. You're loved. You. That's the signal you get to your brain, right?
yeah,
But that's the first point. And the second point is that I feel a lot of times our generation, we get uh, like floated by all these information, all these ideas. Oh, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. All great ideas. And I think there is a part of these people who really want to make an effort to understand it, but then again they get impatient. Or you have the other side that people are actually saying, "Oh my God, I do this because I feel when I'm doing this, I get more self value inside of me because I can say to
right,
my surrounding people, hey, I'm doing meditation. I'm a better person than you are. So yeah, it's
right.
almost like a competition
Yeah,
between people, and when you have this approach, obviously it won't work for you because that implements that you are not believing in that, and it cannot work. So it's actually really beautiful.
yeah,
Uh,
because it becomes about something outside of yourself, right? Like, oh my God, I feel so zen right now. I need to post it on Instagram, how zen I am.
yeah.
And you said something very important before when you first started that, um, it's all about I must do this, I can do this, I need to do this other thing,
No.
or you can also just do nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. You
And that's
don't have to.
perfectly fine. There's great value in that also. And I think there's an upcoming generation where like they don't believe in that, dude. I remember, what the reason my business probably took so long to like for me to be where I am right now is because I just and we had this discussion about social media. I cannot believe that I'm actually making a living out of this, um, without the help, with minimal help from social media, from marketing. I just, when I was a kid, I remember like there would be like a karate dojo or something. It's there. They put the sign. It's out there, and it's like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
you build it, and they will come like the Kevin Costner movie, Field of Dreams, and that's what I grew up. I was like, I can't do this. I can't just be like constantly making like content. I would love to, but my brain is not set for that. And right now, I would need somebody else to work for me in doing that, right? Because I just do not have the time or the capacity. But like,
Yeah. But it's
I
still
need
work,
more time for doing
right?
nothing.
And I think this is an important point, especially, I mean, a lot of my clients or people I'm in touch with, I'm working with, talking to, they have this constant stress this pressure to do stuff because they feel they are actually forced by their society, by their surrounding, that they have to do certain things. And I think a lot of people don't realize how much stress that causes inside of you. And when you realize, you don't know how to get out of that, and instead of like, that comes back to what you said basically, if you just let go from the idea for a beginning, and then you just like say like, okay, stepping back here, is it really necessary? And if it's necessary, how can I deal better with that? Is
Right.
there another way? Is there another solution? So that's actually beautiful. It actually goes along with the question I wanted to ask you next. we talked already about controlling emotion and how important it is actually to have a balanced and reduce stress lifestyle. Again, a lot of people, I think stress comes from somewhere, and if you are connecting the wrong emotion with the wrong action after this emotion, it can create stress. And I wanted to ask you, because I know you're really really good in that and I learn a lot from you. Can you share like one or two tips you do on daily basis if you feel like I have a negative emotion right now, or I have stress in my life? ev- I need to deal with that. And what do you do? Is there any one, two things you do on daily basis when you feel something comes up?
Yeah, three things popped in my mind, and so I'm gonna start talking. I'm gonna see if I remember all 3 points.
Sure.
The first one can be like a scenario.
Okay.
So even when we go on vacation, let's just take you want to go on vacation, right?
Hmm.
You notice how people go on vacation, but ultimately there's this desire to like post every single moment. Like you go out, you're having fun, you're doing this, and people just have to share that with everybody. Or they go on the trip, they spend like a week overseas having an amazing, incredible experience. And then they go back home and now they want to share everything on Facebook or Instagram and they have like 400 photos. Now, isn't that stressful? What photos am I gonna pick? What's like, who, what are they gonna think? Is this one good? Like, oh my God, dude, like, why put yourself through that? Like I was telling earlier, sometimes it's okay to just not do anything. And what I mean by that is exactly this scenario where like, just go, have your vacation, enjoy your life. It's an experience that's for you and you only. The world does not need to be a part of that experience. It's yours and it has incredible value for you. That's all you need. You know, I'm going on vacation and I had a great time. You don't need to see every step, every single thing that I've done. And maybe that's just my perspective because I'm a very private person. And these days I feel like honestly, like if you don't lead a public life, you don't have one at all. Like
And a lot of
people just
people,
basically judge you based on what you post,
and a lot
right?
of people need that for the attention. We know that. Like a lot of people need that for the attention. We know that. So it's just they need to show that they have something, but sometimes they don't even have that just because it's on social media. So, but anyway,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah. So
Sorry.
anyway, so that's one scenario there where
Mhm.
like you're causing yourself unnecessary levels of anxiety
Yeah.
and you don't really need to,
Yeah.
just live your life, enjoy it, see what you can get from it, or just simply just be there in the moment and enjoy it. All these emotions, they pass. They pass. The negative emotions, they will pass. The positive feelings, they will also pass. So just let them come and go. Let them come and go. Tomorrow's gonna be another day. You don't know what's gonna happen. You can prepare for it,
Yeah.
but ultimately it's outside of your control. So anyway, I digress. So
The
you were telling
situation.
me about an emotion
Hmm.
and how do I deal with it?
Yeah.
Oh, preparation.
Preparation.
I don't know. There may be a couple of people listening to this that may know what I'm talking about. Um, I'm not gonna get into the technical term, but one thing that you can do is prepare for the possible challenges. Like if you
Hmm.
wake up in your day, for example, and this is something that has worked for me in the past, you know that you want to get from point A to point B,
Hmm.
right? You need to go to a session, you need to go to an appointment, whatever it is. And for example, you have to rely on Uber, Lyft, whatever. You have to prepare for the potential of something happening that's going to prevent you from getting there on time.
Hmm.
And you can prepare for that by making certain choices, right? By, for example, making sure that you wake up earlier, making sure you call the car earlier so you go there earlier with plenty of time because even though you have the intention and you can control your desire to like you want to be there, you need to be there. Once you go outside the door, a number of things can happen, right? So if you prepare yourself for anything that can potentially happen, and if something happens that you're running late, if you have left with plenty of time, then right there you have an advantage and you might just make it in the nick of time. but also from an emotional perspective, you have to prepare yourself for the potential of just like bad things happening
Hmm.
for you. And you know, I'm a big fan of the Enchiridion by Epictetus. And I gave you the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius as a gift. And if you remember, the
Beautiful.
opening is like, today I will wake up and I will confront, all manners of individuals.
Hmm.
And he goes on to mention all the negatives. And it's called, I think it's called negative visualization. And it's not necessarily that you are expecting the worst, but you're allowing yourself open for the worst and how to prepare to deal with that. So I think preparation is a big part of it. So like when these things do happen, you were already in that mindset and then emotional state of like, okay, so here it is, it's happening. I'm prepared for this. Because I think a lot of the time we just get shocked by negative things that are happening to us, and we sort of personalize them, right? We just sort of like, how can this happen to me?
Yeah.
But we remove that me from the situation. We realize that things may not really be happening to us. They are just happening, and we just happen to be there at that moment in time. And I think just sort of removing that personalization of the experience can also take the sting out of it a little bit.
Hmm.
And that has worked for me in the past. And I think also, if you cultivate a daily practice, whatever your philosophy is, if you practice meditation, for example, if you cultivate a daily practice, you're going to reprogram your brain, you're going to rewire your brain, you're going to reprogram your body to be able to deal with situations like that. But I think, and what I believe is like the one thing that sometimes is missing from when people are teaching you to meditate and the people talk about these practices, these philosophies, and whatever you want to call them, is that the one thing that we need to accept to ourselves first and foremost is that we may be neurotic people, right? We are not perfect. We can have obsessive compulsive disorders. We might be irritable. I have an anger problem, and
Hmm.
I had to acknowledge that and own it before I was able to understand how to manage my anger, right? But if I turn my back, if I deny that there was that thing in me, I spent years denying it. Like, I don't have a bad temper. I was disastrous, absolutely disastrous. It was only when I owned it, when I said like, yes, I have a bad temper, and this is why I'm doing this practice. This is why I practice every day to keep it under control. That does not mean that I'm gonna be like an enlightened, awoke being and nothing's gonna bother me. No, of course things are gonna bother. Of course I'm going to encounter annoying people. Of course I'm going to encounter people that are gonna piss me off, situations that are gonna piss me off.
Yeah.
How can you not escape that? You don't live outside of that environment. We are part of this environment. But the key, like I said earlier, is basically how you react to that and accept that this thing that just happened to me is to be expected. Why am I gonna lose? Why am I gonna put so much emotional energy into it? Right?
That makes
Um,
That was great. That was actually really good. Um, I just wanted to round this up with maybe, if you cannot see right now, okay, these are great tips, but how does that help me to get more productive, to have more time for myself? Think about it in this way. If you can control your emotion, you can avoid more stressful situation, or you can prepare for the stressful situation like Daniel just shared, that you stay more calm. And when you stay more calm, you can think more clearly, and that's going to give you more productivity, more time, and everything, and just a calm and happier lifestyle. And honestly, from this perspective, if you feel happier, you are healthier, you have less stress, and you automatically gain more energy and more time for your life, for your business, for whatever you want to spend your time on. And I think this is beautiful and very important to understand. Yeah.
yeah, you gotta prepare. I was telling you that I was feeling exhausted. I was talking about choices, right? Sundays is my only day off. Last Sunday I worked. I made the choice to
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
Was it a wise choice? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It was a terrible choice, but I made it and I had to own it. I had to live with it. And I realized, and I learned from that. I realized, nope, not gonna do this again. That is my day. And I need to take care of myself, because if I don't take care of myself, I'm not gonna be in the position to take care of anybody else or help other people. So I didn't prepare. I thought it was a brilliant idea, to work like 2 weeks straight, and no, it wasn't. So I think it also comes down to preparation, scheduling things properly. You can avoid unnecessary stress by just taking that into consideration,
Hmm.
and also be open to the possibility that once you have a plan, that plan can quickly go out the window.
Yeah, that is true. I think everybody who's listening right now will can identify with that. I think we all experience that at some point. So yeah, okay. Thank you for this sharing. My next question actually would be for you, maybe a little bit off topic, but I think it's still super interesting. We had so many conversations about that, and I just want to have your view here on tape on this topic. How can we manage during these days when we get clearly with COVID-19, with everything what we see out here, getting more and more pushed into online is the way to go. And I think this is a beautiful, great tool. I mean, we without the internet, we couldn't connect here right now. We couldn't make this interview. It's all a matter of perspective. But what has me worried is actually that people lose themselves too much into the world of the internet, of social media, um, just looking down their phone, maybe bumping in something, some other person, without even realizing. Maybe when you look up, maybe there's the love of the life right on the other side of the street, but you didn't see it because you were
Yeah.
so focused on the world, on a world it's not even existing actually, because you're not living in the moment right now, right?
Well
Um,
said. Yeah.
so my question for you is, if we see all that, this disconnection between people becoming more, I call it dehumanization, becoming more and more almost like machines connecting with machines in our hands in front of our computer. Um, what can we do to get better connections again with other human beings, and to live more in the daily in this moment, in this present moment of life? I mean, it's practice, I know, but maybe you have some insights to share for that.
Well, from my own experience, I have definitely felt the sting of that, but today we know more than we did 6 months ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think I feel like fear has been replaced by cautiousness, right? At least I like to think so. That's how I view things. And I just want to say that everything that I say in this podcast it's my own opinion about things. It's not what I
Thank
believe
you.
is the right way, the right thing. But so you answered your own question earlier. I think we need to disconnect from the things that are damaging to us. All the people that I talk to that suffer from greater levels of anxiety, they spend their time in front of a computer or on the phones, just feeding and being fed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just disconnect, just take a moment. People, oh, but the work stress. I'm like, the work will still be there. But if I don't look at my emails on Sunday, then Monday morning, I'm going to deal with a lot more. Then deal with more on Monday morning. But at least you're going to have greater emotional and mental capacity to deal with it Monday. All right. You will feel so much better by having that day to yourself, by not connecting to this every single time. It's almost like we are psychically or spiritually plugged in, right? But I think disconnecting from that, educate yourself, spend some time educating yourself so you know all the facts, and knowing that, having that information. Now, how can I manage my personal relationships? Is it doable? Can I just go out and meet other people? Yeah, absolutely. Do your part.
Yeah.
Stay educated, stay connected.
Yeah.
Follow the directions, follow common sense, right? You know, um, I think this is more of a personal thing, but we know a lot more about transmission, and I think it's really I my emotions are sometimes either I get angry, a little bit angry, or I get a little sad at how people walk in such a state of fear every day. Um, I am not going to be offended if you want to keep your mask on. Even if we walk by the street, we're both wearing masks. We know how it's transmitted. You're not gonna get it if we walk by each other. And sometimes I still have people that just walk and just like sort of looking to the side. And I'm just like, I would not want to be that person. Now, of course, I don't know their story. I don't know what experiences have made them live the
Will
way
have
they
their
do.
reasons. Yeah, they will have their
They
reasons.
have their own reasons. So, I don't want to be passing judgment on that, although I feel like right now I may be passing a little bit of judgment into it. So I just want to say that I may be, but I just wish that people had better coping mechanisms. But like, again, it's outside of my control. You can only do your part. Just disconnecting from social media, disconnecting from the news for certain amounts of time a day, and then just go back and making human connections.
Yeah.
Sometimes just walking by the street and just saying hi. Just because we're wearing masks doesn't mean that you can't say hi to another. Sometimes you smile at somebody and just nod your head. They sense that, they feel it. It's like they
Mm.
smile. I You can see somebody smiling because of their eyes, right?
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
say hi or they just nod. But there's so much more that we can do under the circumstances to like bring us back to each other. Simple hello, simple wave, a simple nod, acknowledging another person's presence.
Yeah.
You know, um,
Showing
there's
interest, right?
there's a lot of power there.
Yeah, showing interest and just being like interested in the other person instead of like presenting you interesting, showing interest in the other person and give something to them so they can work with that, right? So I
Yeah,
think,
don't be afraid of another person. Empower them.
yeah, yeah,
You know.
yeah, I think that's beautiful. Okay, that's so definitely taking time off is super, super critical. Like taking time for yourself, taking time off from social media, from work, from whatever it is that you feel causes stress and anxiety in your life, and connect yourself and spend some value moment time with yourself, with your family, whatever it is, but definitely off technology. That's definitely a major.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And again, educate yourself and have common sense.
yeah.
Don't think that this day and age going into a house full of like 20 people. Oh, but we're all wearing masks. It's, you know,
Yeah.
just have common sense, and yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think a lot of the suffering that we go through, if you don't have a chemical imbalance, um, I think a lot of it's just up in here. It's just
So
really, we create all these things that don't
it
exist.
starts all here.
We create all these things that don't need to be present.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Okay. The last one, but it's gonna be a big one. Maybe it depends how much deep we want to get into that. But first, before I want to start asking you a little bit more about your healthy routines, how your diet looks like, what supplementations you are doing. Because guys, you have to understand one thing. If I probably ask you how old is this guy here in front of me, you probably would guess something around maybe mid 30s and 30s, but he
You can see the lines.
see the lines, yeah.
You can see the
But
white
but
here.
but I'm correct if I'm saying you're. Can I share your age? Is that okay?
Sure.
Yeah, you're 47, right? Yeah.
47, turning 48,
I
turning
remember the first.
21.
I remember the first time I saw you. I actually thought you were the beginning of. You were kind of like my age. I thought like maybe 5 years older than me, but it's yeah, it's absolutely amazing. If you see guys how this guy moving, what he can do, amazing. He's basically for me the leading example why age is just a number, and it all again it starts all in your head. And that being said, very curious and very interested. Even though I know a lot of these things you're already doing, because we talk about this constantly, we're in touch with that. But maybe share a little bit how's your diet looks like, and maybe like cool supplementation nobody knows about or something you do what really works for you well.
Okay, so any supplementation that I tell you about, I think at this point everyone will know about it because it's common knowledge. But like 6 years ago when I started, it wasn't common knowledge. So remember when I was telling you that I spent a lot of time researching when I was going through that really really dark period in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I started supplementing with vitamin D, zinc, magnesium. I started supplementing with maca, ashwagandha. Um,
One I know from you, actually.
yeah. We talked about that. What else? As far as my diet, I honestly don't have a restrictive diet. I'm not, I don't love food. Like, I'm not obsessed about food. I eat it. I eat food because if I don't, I die.
Just chocolate,
And,
right?
uh-huh.
Just chocolate, right?
Well, yeah, I do love chocolate cake. Yes, that I do love. And I've been eating a little less of it lately, but for different reasons. What I do is like I try to keep a very generous portion of vegetables in my diet and carbohydrates. I'm the body type that I function really well on a high carbohydrate diet.
Yeah.
Um, and it all depends, right? Like honestly, there I have a good relationship with my body in the sense that I kind of when I wake up, like I do intermittent fasting and like around noontime, I figure out I just feel what is that I need to eat. And this is not something that I can honestly explain coherently or eloquently.
Did you learn that, or did it just come naturally to you?
It just comes naturally. I just take a moment. I just take a moment. I just pay attention. I just like, what's my body telling me? And I just try to go for that feeling. I just sort of like create an image in my head. Food, what is it?
Interesting.
Eggs. I'm gonna eat eggs. I feel like most of the time in the mornings, I'm more of the meat type.
Mm-hmm.
And there are days where like I need to just my first meal needs to be mostly carbs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's no logic to it. And I know honestly, I wish I could tell you like a regimented, like this is what I do. It
Mm-hmm.
isn't, man. And it's worked for me. It's worked for me.
Sure.
And a lot of people hate me for it because 47, I have my six pack and I eat what I want.
But but hold on, because you say it works for you, but I know, I mean, you give tips also to your clients and it works for them as well. It's not just
Ah,
it works for you, right? Like, I mean,
with my clients, I'm a little bit more strict.
okay.
With my clients, I try to help them develop a greater relationship with food by asking them to log their food.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, with my clients it's different. I kind of like do like the whole elimination thing, where like I ask them not to log calories. I don't work with calories. Mostly I ask them to just basically log in their food, right? I try to separate them by food types. What kind of carbs am I eating? Write it down. What kind of protein? What kind of fats am I consuming? And basically, I try to have them go into like actually write on a paper diary because it just feels more natural, right? You're connecting to something natural, wood, paper. You're more engaged in the work, right? And I also ask them to write how they feel after each meal. I help them keep in consideration the levels of satiation.
Mm-hmm.
So like I encourage them, if they're on a weight loss program, just eat about 80 to 85% full. I explain to them how, if you're consuming nutrient rich calories, you can actually go by on fewer number of calories, right? Because the problem is like we eat so much bad stuff that our bodies are actually consistently nutrient starved. And people think that it's real hungry of satiation of like having a full belly, but it's not. It's just the bodies are in a state of nutrient starvation.
Mm-hmm.
So if they just put healthy food in their systems, they can actually eat less of it. Um, so basically, so what that happened is like once when they're writing how they feel, like hours after meals, I feel groggy, I feel heavy, I feel energized. I ask them every week on Sundays to like review their food diary and start picking up patterns. Like, oh, there was these 2 days when I felt whatever. What was I eating? And start picking up clues
Yeah.
seeing what's working for. And the one thing that I can tell you right now is like the people, the client that have been doing that, they get results.
True.
People that don't, it either takes longer or they just don't see results because again, it all comes down to your commitment and your dedication.
True.
Uh, there's no quick fix. It's not gonna happen overnight. You're not gonna get a six pack in 12 weeks. You may not even get a six pack, and that's fine. I think we need to start from a point of self love,
Yeah.
really accepting who we are and understand that we can be the best version of ourselves, right? But what is that best version of ourselves gonna look like, right?
Yeah.
Your best version is not gonna look like my best version,
Yeah.
and my best version is not defined by how I look physically, right? It's defined by my behavior, right? By my emotions. It's defined by how I interact with other people, right? And I think that's getting a little bit deeper into the work, but that's how I work with clients. So it's a little different from me.
No, I mean, well, first I want to say before anyone thinks right now when you listen to this right now, well, it's easy for you to say because you have a six pack that you should accept yourself and that you self that you do self love. But trust
I
me,
hope they don't talk like that.
no, I hope I'm over extending this, right? But I mean that I know this guy personally. I know Daniel for sure, and he really, it's not like you don't care. I know you, but you actually take very good care about your body, and this is very important, and this is one of the reasons why you look with 47 how you look right now. But this guy just doesn't start there. He starts inner side, and then when the inner side is fixed, the outside automatically becomes a almost like an expression of the inner peace and balance of the body. And I can tell you this from my own experience that it really really works. And I think too many people just spend time, and that brings us back to social media because we compare ourselves with other models who work out 7 days for 3 hours a day, and then you expect that you get the same results by working out
A week.
twice a week for 20 minutes, and
Yeah.
you drink alcohol, and you know, but um, it just doesn't happen. But it's great that you said that. I think the number one goodie what people should take out of this is food logging, food diary, and creating. This is one thing what I do with my clients as well, writing down energy, how you feel, like how is your energy, how is your emotion, how did you feel, and then creating awareness. Basically, this is the first important thing you do, is that you realize, okay, this happened, okay, that worked. I had a lot of energy, I had not so much energy. It's very simple but very effective, and I like the approach that you have with it. But just
Yeah, I call it food JKD, food Jeet Kune Do. Figure out what works for you, absorb what is useful, and discard the rest. With food. This is not working.
Bruce Lee style, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
get rid of it.
Yeah.
Because I think it's so important to understand that like people get into this idea of like, oh, I'm eating X type of food because it's a health food. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but how much of it are you eating?
Mm-hmm.
Right? People are like, oh, I eat avocados. It's good fat. How many avocados are you eating a day? How many servings of avocados?
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at that, it's like, man, that fat is really energy dense,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
like really dense. So you need to bring it down. So yeah, I think the whole thing with nutrition requires you gotta be committed to do the work. There's no other way. You have to be willing to be committed. You have to want it, and you have to be willing to make sacrifices.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But just to give people maybe one other thing, you would definitely say um, that eating as natural as possible is always the best way to start with, right? Like,
Absolutely.
absolutely, right? Yeah.
100%. And you look, for example, here in San Francisco, we have those options. When you travel, you may not have those options available to you. You're not gonna stress about it. Just do what you can. That's all that you can do. That's it. It's very simple. I think sometimes people expect like these incredible nuggets of wisdom that is gonna solve all the problems. It's not even that. We all expect to be fixed also. we may not be fixed in our lifetime. That's okay.
Yeah.
You said earlier that, like like the way I work is like I start from here and from here. Absolutely 100%. But by no means am I fixed inside.
Yeah.
There's a lot of healing, man.
We
There's a
all know.
lot of
I
damage.
think
There's a lot of emotional
nobody,
damage.
nobody on this planet except maybe like some monk living in China up in a temple or somewhere. Maybe he is fixed inside, but like people from the Western world, I don't know anybody who's completely fixed. Nobody. Like,
Nowhere, man. Eastern or Western. I think I mean, I believe that you can be enlightened, but I don't know what that looks like.
yeah,
I don't know what that looks like. I mean, when you look at about all these, like it's a joke, but like you mentioned the monk, maybe some monk in Tibet, maybe, but they're not living in San Francisco in 2020. So
yeah, yeah. That's
that
true.
probably made me sound really ignorant and
No, but
stupid.
it's a good, it's a valid point. They'll just live in a completely different world and life, and basically, yeah, that's beautiful. Daniel, thank you so much for your time today, for your, I call it wisdom. You will probably disagree with that, but uh, I I really value. I think people get a lot of value out of that. That just by getting to know you and getting some really good takeaways from the interview. Before we end this interview today, how can people best reach out to you? I know you're not big fan of social media. I know you're not using it, but is there an email address or website you want to share? And maybe because we haven't talked about that, you're working in San Francisco, but what exactly actually are you offering? If people are interested, if you, hey, Daniel is a great guy. I need a personal trainer. I may be living in the Bay Area right now. I need someone to help me with.
Well, they can contact me through my website.
Okay,
Um,
I'll put this down to
or you
the.
put it down, yes, iam1personaltraining.com. I am doing online services, and you know, I think it's important to say that I don't think that I'm doing anything special. I'm not doing, always the whole thing with marketing is like, how are you different from the rest? What are you offering? Like, I'm offering relationships, I'm offering guidance. That's really all I'm offering. I'm not gonna make you do any crazy exercises that are gonna be different. I'm not gonna break new ground into like, well, this is the new mobility fad. No, it just it's nothing new under the sun. I'm just basically offering my services as a guide, as a trainer, as a coach to help you on the journey to be a better you. That's all I'm doing. I'm offering advice. I cannot change who you are. I cannot give you the results you want because it all comes from you. You have to be willing to do the work. I can share all the wisdom that I may have, all the knowledge that I have with you, but if you're not willing to do the work, it's just not gonna happen. And I think it's important for people to understand that. But yeah, I'm doing online. I'm providing online services,
Yeah,
and as well as in studio, with the whole mask,
yeah.
social distancing thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So offline in San Francisco, online from basically all over the world if people want to, as long as they speak English, obviously.
Well,
And
I need to I need a good time because right now the further I have people still in California, but like different cities in California,
yeah,
but like nobody outside of California
yeah.
right now.
You never know when somebody sees this video, maybe he sits in Australia, think like, oh, this Daniel is a great guy, man. Like I should contact him.
Maybe not. I mean, I think I think once I stop, you know, desiring to be liked so much, it was an incredible liberation for me. I'm just trying to express who I am as a human being as accurately as possible. I'm not a perfect being, and just trying to be honest with who I am. And some people may find something really interesting here. Some people may find absolutely nothing interesting, and people might feel like, I don't like this guy's personality.
Yeah.
It's totally fine. Somebody else might be like, yeah, he's all right. But um,
No, my point is it's just like the online. I mean, to get at least one thing out of the online positive fact about the online world is
oh,
you get more opportunity. So yeah.
absolutely.
So if anyone hears that and wants to reach out to Daniel, I'll put the website down below in the description. check this out. I can just only tell you guys it's from the bottom of my heart, not just because Daniel's a friend and a brother. I know he knows exactly what he's talking about. He's always selling himself under value, and I know him. He can create a lot of great value in your life, and yeah, he's just. I think what makes you unique is you just do you, and you don't try to be somebody else or try to exactly give these people like the fix, the immediate fix or something. You think long term, you're interested in the client, and you just present yourself as normal as usual as you are, and you help help the client in the best way you think is possible. So with that being said,
Thank
Daniel,
you, Marvin.
last words are on your side. If you want to add anything, I want to say thank you for your time again, and yeah, last words on you.
Well, thank you very much for having me. You know that I feel very uncomfortable doing things like this, and you went out of your way to make it very comfortable, to make it very relaxed, very chilled, and I really respect all the work that you've done and how far you've come in your own personal journey,
Thank
right? To
you.
do your own part for the world, to provide the services that you provide.
Thank you.
So thank you, and very proud of you.
I can just take that back. Thank you so much. Thank you for being on the show. And yeah, we might do this again. Who knows? So thank you guys for listening. Tune in for the next episode. I hope you get a lot of value out of that. And yeah, thank you. Bye bye.